spelling. It's JOHNDI space capital NINO. I'm the National President for the Amalgamated Transit Union Canada. Alongside me is Eric Tuck. I'll have him introduce himself.
Hi, Eric Tuck, President of ATU Local 107.
All right, I thank you guys for coming out today. We really wanted to touch base with you and talk about what's happening here in Hamilton with the HSR strike and the ATU. There has been a lot of media discussion, but I can tell you, starting off, that this is not where we want to be in terms of our position and shutting down Hamilton with the transit strike. But I will tell you that overwhelmingly we're getting support from our riders and from the constituents who believe in the actions that we are taking today. Although it may be putting people in difficult positions and impacting their daily commutes, but they are behind us. But what we really want to target and speak about today is where we are in the strike, and more importantly, the comments that are coming out of City Hall from Mayor Horwath and from Laura Fontana. Some of the comments that we're hearing are very and extremely concerning. Now, let me just highlight a couple of those things. Yesterday, Mayor Horwath referenced our president here, Eric Tuck, when he was a bus driver in 1998. Let me be extremely clear. We're not bus drivers. We are transit professionals. We do not just drive a bus. We operate transit vehicles, not only in Hamilton, but in every community across Canada. We clean the vehicles. We service the vehicles. We deal with customer service. We deal with our riders. We are the eyes and ears of the community, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I want to refer to Laura Fontana, who said a couple of days before the strike was actually invoked in a press conference that a bus driver is a bus driver is a bus driver. Those comments are reflective of an individual who's not in touch with the reality of what transit professionals do across this city and every community across Canada. And her mindset and her sentiments are reflective of the bargaining process today. And when she says, and when the mayor says that these are fair wages or fair increase, I don't think they realize what transit professionals and transit workers do in terms of serving our communities, serving those who are living with disabilities, working in marginalized communities, dealing with homelessness and addiction issues on our transit vehicles, and more importantly, the everyday assaults that happen against transit workers. Hence, we find ourselves working, trying to negotiate a contract with a city council and a mayor who just don't get it. I can tell you that in speaking to transit workers here in Hamilton, those comments made by this city council and our mayor are extremely troubling and concerning, and they have set the mandate of where we need to go and what a fair living wage is going to look like for transit professionals. With that, I also wanted to bring Eric Tuck, the president of ATU Local 107 here, to respond to some of the comments made by Mayor Horwath.
Thanks, John. And I'll apologize for looking down at my screen, but I do have to, I am going to be quoting some statistical data. So one of the comments I really wanted to address was Andrea's comment, Mayor Horwath's comment in regards to a comment that I made back in 1998. You know, the mayor said that she wants to be fair, reasonable, and transparent, and she wants to talk about the facts. Well, I want to talk about some of the facts and be fair and reasonable and transparent as well. You know, how fair and reasonable is it for the mayor to quote something I said from a picket line that was attributed to me in the Spectator from a strike back in 1998, when I was an operator, without putting it into the proper context. I want to remind everybody about a quote that was made 25 years ago. 25 years ago, a one-bedroom apartment here in Hamilton cost the average person about $729. That's a fact from CMHC. Today, that same apartment costs $1,700. That's an increase of 133%. 25 years ago, the average housing price in Hamilton cost $185,000. To buy that same house today, the average cost is $789,000, an increase of 326%. 25 years ago, the price of fuel in Hamilton was 51 cents a liter. Today, the price of that same liter of fuel is $1.41, an increase of 176%. And 25 years ago, if you look at the price of bread and butter to make a sandwich, back then, it cost $4.44. Today, that same loaf of bread and pound of butter would be $8.67. So to be fair and reasonable, let's realize that inflation, $1 today, when you look at inflation, is the equivalent to $1.89 in today's money. And if Andrea wants to talk about quotes, I'll be more than happy to. Because I can remember when she was the leader of the Labour Party and when she was at Queen's Park. In fact, why would I say it? She said it best. Let's put it on.
Everything is going up, Speaker. The cost of housing is up. The cost of electricity is up. The cost of gas is up. The cost of food is up. The cost of insurance is up. The cost of milk and butter is up, Speaker.
There you go. She recognized it 2 years ago. Why can't she recognize it today? That was only 2 years ago. I don't have to go back 25 years ago. So I wanted to put that quote in context. I'll also remind you that in 1998 we had come off of a previous strike in 96 where we had got significant increases which had put us in a much better position. Which is why I said in 98, after being on a picket line for 10 weeks, if that's the best, I think that's the best we're going to do. That's not the case today. You have to realize that we've lost money over the last 2 contracts, 3 contracts. We've lost significant wages to inflation. It's hard for somebody sitting at the bargaining table to understand that unless they've been through the same thing. And that's why I want to bring up Laura Fontana. Somebody who's making $212,000 today. And I want to bring up her salary. If you look at the last 4 years, I'll talk about the last 4 years for a bus operator. We received a 55-cent increase in 2019. We received a 56-cent an hour increase in 2020. 57 cents an hour increase in 21 and 58 cents in 2022. Well, Laura Fontana received over that same 4-year period $19,000 increase in her salary. So if we're going to compare and we want to talk about fairness and equity, let's look at those numbers. I also want to talk about a comment about the final offer being requested by the union. Let's put it into context. The mayor wasn't sitting at the negotiating table. Her team was at the negotiating table, and several times they made the statement to us, the best we can do is the same as we did for QP. After repeating that several times, we asked them to put it into paper. Put it on paper if that's your final offer. If that's your final offer, put it on paper and we'll take it to the membership. That is how we requested, in her words, the final offer. The reality is we're ready to go back to the bargaining table at any time. Andrea said that our request, last request at the table was 23%. She's absolutely correct. When they gave us their final offer, we gave them where we were at. That doesn't mean we don't have room to move. That doesn't mean that we're not willing to negotiate, but in order to negotiate, you've got to have a willing partner that's prepared to move off of their numbers. We are more than willing to move off that 23%, but we need the city to move off of their numbers as well, and to recognize the losses that workers in this city have taken over the last several years due to inflation. And we need wages that keep pace not only with inflation, but the market that we are living in. The reality of today's market in Hamilton. And with that, I'll turn it over to John to address some of the other comments made.
You know, again, we talk about the disparity, and we talk about some of the comments that are coming out of City Hall, which are extremely disturbing. But, you know, and when you see the pie chart in the back and you see Laura Fontana's wages continually escalating, $19,000 over the last 4 years alone, one should say that her comments, again, I want to reiterate, her comments were that a bus driver is a bus driver is a bus driver. Well, let me send this message to the City Council and Laura Fontana. And that is that an executive director is an executive director is an executive director. I'm sure that we can get a more affordable, cost-efficient executive director. Why they're picking on transit workers, I think is hypocritical of the person sitting in that office today. You know, so we also heard from Laura Fontana about comparables. And she referenced two other communities in the Greater Toronto Hamilton area. She referenced Mississauga and she referenced Brampton. And in that comment and in that question from the media, it was clear that Hamilton is just as proportionally populated as those other two communities, but yet they rank number 3 in wages when it comes to those 3 communities. Well, let me tell you what the disparity is. Hamilton is a striving, rebuilding community, is vibrant. We're seeing more and more people enter this community, but yet our wages for a transit operator are almost $5 less per hour than in those communities. Why would anybody want to work as a transit professional in this city when they can drive down the road for 30 minutes and make $5 an hour more? How are we going to attract and retain new workers into the transit sector in this community? But let's talk about some of the maintenance staff, our skilled trades. I'm a skilled trades person by nature. And let me tell you, one of the biggest issues we have in transit systems and municipalities right across this country is that maintenance skilled trade employees are underpaid. In fact, Hamilton ranks number 17 of all transit properties in terms of where skilled trades sit today. We are having issues retaining and acquiring and inviting people in from skilled trades into the transit sector because in the outside market, the flat rates are substantially and significantly higher than what we're seeing here in Hamilton. So I think that needs to be said. You know, we're talking about facts. You know, we talk about the facts. The mayor said yesterday that there would be a 23% increase. What she's not telling Hamiltonians is that 23% is not happening in one year. That is being broken up over 4 years. And so they need to figure out their budgets, look at cost efficiencies, but let's not pick on the people, the women and men who move this city, who move this country. It's those workers that are on the front lines day in and day out in inclement weather, work through the pandemic, while these senior officers and staff at City Hall have received lucrative pay adjustments, substantial wage increases, but yet get to work from home 3 days a week. We can't drive our bus from home. I can't swing my wrench from my garage. I have to get in there, we have to get in there to make sure that those wheels keep turning on our transit vehicles 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, it's extremely frustrating. This city, this mayor is talking about accountability, is talking about trust, is talking about facts. You really want to know what the facts are? The facts are that in the proposed 2024 budget, they want to offer a $41 million exemption to developers. The same developers who are making money in this city developing those new buildings and those new housing and those new establishments. Why would the 1% get a $41 million exemption? That is money that could be put into the pockets of Hamiltonians, of workers, blue-collar workers, who continually move this city. And so we are asking that this city council be truthful with Hamiltonians, be truthful with the workers, and by God, let me tell you, I am extremely disappointed in Andrea Horwath, who came from the labor sector and is now talking the rhetoric of someone who wants to be the boss and use heavy-handed approaches to penalize workers for their inefficiency. Eric?
Yeah, so let's talk about that tax exemption, because I think that's exceptionally important. You know, our council and the city mayor said, you know, a 14% increase in order to give them proper raises. But yet at the same budget, when we look, passed by that council and passed by our mayor, and I see over $40 million in permit exemptions that's built into that for developers. Hamilton developers, many of the same developers that have been in the pockets of Doug Ford and benefiting from the Greenbelt scandal, those same developers who are coming to Hamilton. Most major cities across Canada have instituted inclusionary zoning. They actually charge more money for developers that are going to develop in the core of the city. Why? Because they know they can. It's along major transit lines. They have the ability to charge more and collect more. But in this city, who's supposed to be saying that they're going to be fiscally responsible and they have a 14% tax increase, and they want to put that on the backs of the working core in this city that has served day in and day out. But yet they want to continue to leave money sitting in the pockets of those same developers. I think that is shameful, and it's damn well insulting to us. So let's get serious. This strike is causing undue hardship, not just on my operators and my maintenance people and my administration staff. The day-to-day people who rely on transit are hurting. I have letters that have been given to me from individuals saying, I will lose my job and I could become homeless as a direct result of this strike. Why are they giving developers breaks on development fees of $40 million when we have people sleeping in our streets, going hungry? Why are we withdrawing services, vital and important services, to the Hamilton taxpayers at the cost of developers? That's what the question is to the councillors and to our mayor. It's time to stop playing the blame game and get back to the bargaining table, and let's get that service back on the street. Thank you.
And you know, as we wrap up, I think it's extremely important that we recognize that we are in the labor capital of Canada. This is where labor was founded in. This is where our roots are. I want you to think about that. The actions that ATU is taking today is not just self-serving. The actions today are for every worker and every community that deserves more. I want to remind our writing public and our constituents that it was labor generations ago who set things like a fair living wage, who set things like benefits, the 40-hour work week, weekends off, sick time. Our fight today is about generations moving forward and to ensure that those workers are always, who are the nucleus, the engine of our economies, that they continue to benefit from the fruits of their labor and get what they rightfully deserve in terms of wage increases and benefits and protections. With that, we will open the floor to any questions.
I think from the spectator, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but all city employees are facing the challenges that you've listed in terms of inflation and housing prices and the cost of paying for groceries. Do you think that the city's other large union that has since settled for too little, do you think that they were underpaid?
So I'm not going to comment on somebody else's bargaining. I know the mayors and Laura Fontana are happy to discuss what other, one of the things I will address is the comment about pattern bargaining. I don't know where or who decided we should be in pattern bargaining. I've never agreed to that. That's not something that's been negotiated at the bargaining table with me. We do draw comparisons, certainly around benefits and things like that. But when it comes to wages, you got to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. You got to look at the makeup of 5167 CUPE, and their membership is far different than my membership. I deal with transit professionals specifically who have major interactions with the public on a daily basis, 65,000 rides a day. So we deal with about 32,000, 35,000 people day in and day out. We are exposed to assaults. We do not have climate-controlled offices. We do not have readily access to washrooms. Quite often we got to hold our bladders, wait. We don't have time out of the seat. We don't get lunch breaks or meal breaks. You cannot compare the two. I'm bargaining for my members. Every other union will bargain for theirs. But one thing I will say is I have never agreed to pattern bargaining. Anything else?
There was one comment yesterday during the press conference down at Frankie Cook Terminal from a different union leader about the bringing in of scabs potentially for Grey Cup transportation, and that was something that Mayor Horwath addressed during her press conference yesterday, saying Hamilton is a labor town, and that was an entirely Metrolinx decision. I'm just wondering if you can comment in response to what she had to say about that particular issue.
So at the end of the day, it's the same argument they make with the LRT argument as far as our contract, but the city signed the contract with Metrolinx for the LRT. The reality is, I don't care who's bringing buses into this town. We have been transporting Tiger Cap fans, CFL fans, to and from Grey Cup events here in this city, and to every other type of football game here in this city throughout history. So anybody who attempts to bring buses in here into this city using scab labor to replace the work that we did, this is a labor town, and we will take it seriously and we will deal with it.
And just one more question, sorry, about the other markets basically having, the ability to draw talent from Hamilton. I'm just wondering, during bargaining, did you have is there any numbers you might be able to share in terms of how many people are indeed going to those other markets?
So I can tell you personally, I can think of offhand about probably 20 to 30 people in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months that have gone to work in those other markets. I can tell you as far as the skilled trades, I thought, John touched on that. Here in Hamilton specifically, we have a real crisis with the skilled trades. We have about 8 to 10 that we're operating short, about 8 to 10 skilled trades, mechanics, and we actually put a call out for applications. And after 4 weeks, we received 4 months, we received one application. So that tells you something. And now we're building a second garage. How are we going to man that garage? How are we going to get those skilled trades people there? Listen, this isn't just the ATU's problem, this is the city's problem. I think what's happening here, there's a bit of a disconnect, and I don't think that the people at the bargaining table are communicating the full story to the mayor. We've reached out to the mayor several times since before the strike started, and we have not had her reach back. I've offered to sit down with her myself, and she has not returned my calls. Any other questions?
Anything in closing?
With that, I think we'll conclude.
Yeah, I just want to say, look, on behalf of the ATU, we are in, and we have positioned ourselves for whatever it's going to take to resolve this issue. Be rest assured that we will bargain in good faith. But if this strike is prolonged, ATU Canada and the ATU International are prepared to support this strike and support the women and men who have been moving this city for as long as it takes. We apologize the inconvenience to our riding public, but they need to understand that this is not just about us, it's not just about them, it's about we and all of us collectively on what's better going to drive and make this city a more vibrant, affordable community as we move forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And anybody who wants to see that in the budget about the developers, I'll be happy to share that.